Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about really the simplicity. If people wanted to just get their bench stronger and get a bigger bench press with the minimal of complexity. Let's say we don't want to use any sort of periodization, we don't really want to use any sort of conjugate. Conjugate is something I've used to build some pretty big benches in some of my lifters, but I've also gotten mine, up to a 365 pause bench, which you guys saw there, for a nice 2 count pause, in my late 40s while not running conjugate. And here's a couple of take homes to think about with the benching. Really the key to benching is to just build big primary movers, right? Pecs, front delts, lateral head of the tricep, probably a little bit of lat, right? Get your lat strong, will never hurt your bench, and just do lots and lots of pause work. Realistically speaking, when I look at what my bench training is looking like right now at the time I'm making this video, now granted I'm cutting, so I'm not going to expect it to go up, doing a 5x5 pause bench, right, with fairly flat back so that it builds more chest. I can always add an arch if I want bigger numbers, okay? Do a 5x5 a couple days a week. I'm doing a lot of weighted pull-ups. Again, lats help. That's a big point of contention. A lot of people have pointed out, well, focusing excessively on triceps for, a bench press, if you're going to do it raw, and we're talking about a pause bench, may not be the best use of resources. Again, that's subject to debate. We could also argue that the same tricep development you need to bench can come from benching. And I get that, and many coaches have pointed that out over the years, that a lot of the tricep focus for many lifters, I'm not saying some lifters don't have tricep weaknesses, that it may be purely due to the equipped world. On the other hand, I've also had lifters whose raw bench presses have stalled, and a bunch of tricep focus did get them past the 3-plate mark. Okay, people who couldn't get to a 3-plate bench, we hammered their triceps and went up. But I've also had lifters who were stuck there who we just focused on pause benching and incline work. Guess what? They also got up below the 315 up to 340, 350, 360. So these things have happened, but they'll argue that, but then they want to argue against the lats. But lats are kind of a big deal on your maxing. I will be the first to say that, yeah, your rep work, probably not that big of a deal. But what about when it gets heavy? My point with the lats is that, number one, it can help you control the eccentric better so that you can find your best touch point. The ability to control that eccentric and put the bar where you want it, it's one thing when you're doing 5s or 8s or 10s. It's another thing when you go to a heavy single, okay? If you can't control your touch point on that eccentric, it is going to affect your max because your leverages are going to be different. And I agree with that lats and upper back absolutely do help when we get to a max for that reason. Okay, number one. Number two, I feel like they allow a certain amount of tightness and the ability to slingshot out of the bottom. Now, I will say that is more true for closer grip benchers and wider grip benchers. But they absolutely do, and it has nothing to do with the lats being a primary mover. It has to do with the lats almost acting as an external spring to push against the triceps, right? Push up against the back of that tricep. And even if you don't see it further down, even when you do a wider grip, it can push against that long head. And is it going to make a massive difference? No, but a little bit, especially when you got to get in pause, stay tight, and then you drive it off the chest. Those lats can help you with that a little bit. But really at the end of the day, I would say for most guys, if you want a big bench, just work on lots of pause benching. Enough of it, not saying lots, not saying you need to do excessive amounts of it that you can't recover from or do it every day. But let's be realistic here. Most guys out here are not stuck at a 405 bench. Okay? How many guys are like, man, I want a bigger bench? They're stuck at a 225 bench. They're stuck at a 235 bench. Really, what do you think you need to get that up? You just need some pause work. You need to just build your bench with some 1-count, 2-count pauses on your chest. And enough to build your pecs, front delts, all of that up. You need to do some work for that. You need to come in and do some hypertrophy work. And that hypertrophy could still be 5s. It could be 8s, it could be 10s. okay? But that's really what you need to do. And I'm sorry, but that is the reality for people who are stuck at that level. Now, would I say that's the only thing they need? No, not necessarily. I would say for a lot of those guys, doing another exercise for your weakest links, probably not a bad idea. Okay? What do you mean? If you really slow off the chest, I almost really like the pullovers. You guys see me doing pullovers? Okay. Pullovers, anything that helps stretch your chest. I mean, incline could help to some extent. I find incline really for people who kind of stick right in the middle. You stick right at that transition point because that bar doesn't move in a straight line. Okay, incline will help you a lot right there. And that's a lot of raw benchers. Okay. And if you don't like the pullovers, I'm a fan of the pullovers. You know what? Maybe a dumbbell press or a dip. Yeah, if you stick right there at the chest, that's where you're slow off the chest. Some of those stretch reflex movements that put your pecs in a deeper stretch will build more chest. That's not a bad idea. Okay? If your triceps limit you, a JM press. But that's kind of my point. You could pick one of those things. Actually, if you stick in the middle, incline or overhead press works pretty good. But yeah, for people who stick at the bottom, things that put your chest into a better stretch position for your hypertrophy work, yeah, carry over to your bench. If you suck at the lockout, JM press. You stick in the middle, anything that helps really build those front delts. And I feel like that in the upper chest in general. Because again, it usually is not because you're weak there, it's that you have a bad bar path there. And those exercises can help you muscle through that bar path spot and keep it in tighter. Okay? So usually the people who are like, man, I started incline benching and my bench just shot way up. It's usually because that's right. They struggle with that midpoint. Just before the very middle of the rep. They usually just bomb right there. Or they have to grind through that spot. Again, incline can help with that a lot. So that's the people who report that. And they are right. If that's where you're struggling at and you get stronger at incline, you'll just blast through that spot. So there's tremendous carryover. But in general, let's look at this simply. What do most people really need to do? They just need to do more pause work on their benching. They need to do enough bench work where they actually build their chest doing real pauses, doing a nice solid range of motion, okay? Getting powerful off the bottom. Because again, at the end of the day, if you can get more explosive and strong out of the bottom of any bench press, you're probably going to lock it. And if you can't, that's when those other exercises start coming into play. They can be, again, very helpful. But I would also say, I could take someone and literally just do pullovers or incline on top of their pause benching. And most lifters out there will eventually bench 3 plates doing that, assuming they eat enough. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. I'll talk to you guys